You go ahead.
I'm gonna go.
Good.
Go. Hi guys. Hi guys. Welcome back to Okay. Hi guys. Welcome back to Peak Performance Engineering. No, you have to start over. Okay. Hi guys. Welcome back to Peak Performance Engineering. Now we're gonna be working on our ATVs because we're getting them ready for winter.
Today we're going to be working on my kids' ATVs. So we ended up picking up these ATVs for the girls probably 2 years ago. It was around the summer of 2020. They are both made by Apollo, and they're 125cc ATVs. This one's a Sport Trax. This one's called the Sniper Sport. But basically they're the exact same. They've just got a little bit different plastics on them. But they've both run into the same problem after a couple years now. This one doesn't want to start. And I think, it probably just needs to have the carburetor cleaned out. But what we're going to do is actually replace the carburetor on both of these machines and go with kind of an aftermarket, a little bit more of a high performance carburetor, hopefully. So I ended up picking up this carburetor off of Amazon. I'll show you guys that. Now, her ATV also, hers has always had trouble starting. Usually I can only get it to start with some starting fluid, so enough's enough. We're going to swap it out. So looking at the original carburetor, so we're going to go ahead and pop this bad boy off. Now, you can see the dealership that I bought this thing from, he had already put on some kind of, aftermarket little cone filters on both the ATVs, so that's kind of cool. But it looks like we just got 2 bolts, and that's going to actually get off the carburetor from this little intake manifold. But then, of course, we're going to have to disconnect, fuel line, the choke, and the throttle cable. Or I don't know if that's throttle or if that's the for the choke. But anyway, we're going to have to get everything disconnected. But I think I might drop these 2 bolts. Hopefully that'll let me kind of pull the carb down, and then we'll have room to kind of get all this other junk off. And then hopefully our new carburetor, it kind of works the same way, I'm hoping. I think we are going to lose our electric choke probably, but that's fine. But as long as this thing starts and runs good, that's all we care about, right?
Yeah.
All right. I just took a screwdriver and just popped off this little bracket here that was holding the cable for the electric, or I shouldn't say electric choke, it's a manual choke. So it's just operated with this lever. That's how mine's operated, so I got that off, and then you're able to just spin this part up and then able to slide the cable out. So pretty simple. The actual throttle is like way up top here, so I think that'll be easier to get off once we take the bolts off. And then I'm probably going to go ahead and unscrew the air filter, because the air filter has like a little hose that runs off of it for like a little breather deal. So I'll get that off next, and then we should be able to go ahead and get this bad boy off. And then the fuel line, of course, will have to get disconnected as well. All right, so I went ahead and I threw just a pair of vice grips over here on the fuel line. Now I do have the fuel off, so long as this little valve actually does its job and doesn't leak, you shouldn't even really need these, but I got these on just in case. And then now I'm just going to go ahead and take off the 2 bolts, and then we'll be able to let the carb hang down. And then we can take off the, go ahead and pop off the fuel line, and then be able to go ahead and detach the throttle cable, and then we should be able to swap this baby out. I just got the carburetor all off here, very simple. The only thing you got to kind of watch out for is to get the throttle cable off. It's got kind of like a little, almost like a set screw. And so there's no, it doesn't really have like a slot or anything. So I just took a pair of pliers and I was able to loosen it. And then as soon as I got it loose, then it was really easy just to go ahead and get the cap off. And so here's our whole, throttle connection deal. So I'm probably going to have to go ahead and disassemble this to be able to use it on the new carburetor, but we'll figure that out. I went ahead and grabbed the new carburetor. I wanted to mock it up and see if it was, roughly going to work, because this new carburetor is a lot larger than the old one, and the intake, the whole throttle opening, the diameter is all much bigger. So it looks like it's going to work. The bolt spacing between the bolts is the same. The hole, I'll show you guys compared to the old ones. It's huge compared, but it looks like it's going to work, except that we've got an issue with some clearance right here where the bottom of the bowl is touching the starter. So I think what I'm going to do is just clearance. We don't need much at all, 1/16 of an inch. It's super close. It just looks like the space here, it might keep it. It might be fine, honestly. Once I tighten it down, it might be fine, but I would feel a little bit better just, you know, going and just take a quick little second on a grinder real quick and just grind that down, and then we should be fine. I also noticed that because this new opening here for the intake is so much bigger, I mean, it's actually the same, it's the same diameter as the old filter. So this filter's not going to work, so I'm going to have to go ahead and order a new filter. But otherwise, yeah, at least it bolts up. That's good. And I mean, with this carburetor, the nice thing is we've got, you know, full adjustability now. We can change our jetting, change our pilot jets, you know, tune the air fuel mixture, all that good stuff if we need to. So it's going to be pretty nice. We are going to lose the nice little choke, you know, that we got here. So the new one just has a manual choke, so we'll manually have to choke it. So that sucks. But hopefully, you know, once we get this thing all dialed in, it's going to work really well and we won't have any issues. So getting these guys side by side, we can see the huge difference, you know. I'll have to actually look it up. I forget which size I even bought. I think maybe this is like a 20 millimeter or something, 22. And I don't know, I thought I went just a little bit bigger, like a 24. But, I mean, it is like huge difference. But anyway, looks like it's going to work. I read a lot of the reviews, and a lot of guys said for the 125 cc's, these worked fine. So hopefully it works fine. But the other thing is this is the factory bolt that would have held on the carburetor. So these threaded in here, but on the new one, they don't have threads. But luckily, you know, they still fit. They go through. You just need to find a nut. So luckily, I already had some nuts laying around that work. So that's fine, but you'll need to get yourself some little nuts. And otherwise, let's look at the front side. Look at the differences here between these guys. Huge difference. So obviously this bad boy is going to be able to flow, you know, a lot more air, all that good stuff, but everything else is going to match up. You know, our fuel is still here right on the top. It's in a very similar location to the original, so that's going to work just fine. And then I'm going to see if maybe the way my throttle cable is, it loops back, so I'll see if this can go on, but I've got to get the throttle cables all swapped around. But even just looking, you know, here, like the diameter differences, right? It's just a much beefier, much bigger carburetor. So whatever this company is, NIBBI Racing. So give you some instructions, kind of some details on how to tune it, and then you also get some extra jets and some extra pilot jets and all that good stuff too. So if we need to tune it, we can. Hopefully right out of the box, we'll see how it works. But I will need to order a new air filter, so I'll need to order 2 of them, 1 for each bike. And then I'm going to take both of these carburetors, and I'm just going to go ahead. Yeah, this little part right here just needs to be just taken down, not much at all, just a tiny little bit. So just take a little bit off there, then we should be good to go. All right, guys, so all I did to go ahead and, you know, clearance this out, I just used a simple file. This is just aluminum, so it's really simple to, you know, to remove some material and trying to line it up the best I can. So you can see I didn't take off a whole lot of material here, but just a little bit, maybe 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, probably 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other carburetor to match it, but I did already try this back on. It does fit now, so we've got, you know, a little bit of clearance in there. So again, just took me literally maybe 1 minute to go ahead and just file that little bit of material off. And we're basically just kind of making it almost even with that portion, where, you know, originally it's got just that little kind of nub that sticks out. So we're just kind of flattening that out. So really simple little modification. Here's our finished product. So again, this little edge now is just about level with this bottom here. So should be good to go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get this whole kind of a throttle, you know, kind of the end of the throttle assembly and stuff all ready to go. So I don't think I showed it on the other one on camera, but basically this little guy will go and it'll slide all the way. It'll just kind of just go like this and then go down in there and be held in, right? So pretty easy, but we've got also, you know, get on this little, you know, kind of the cap and then the spring. And then this one has this little plastic washer that the spring rides on or sits against instead of just being on here. So I think that's also got to get kind of put on before we slide it all through. So let's kind of see if we can do it real quick. So let's see if we can get this guy to come through here. Okay, success. All right, so that's good. Spring, followed by the clip, or the white washer, I should say. Well, this is going to be fun. Yeah, we got that in there, right? Okay. Yeah, so it looks like it's actually seated good. Okay, well, that wasn't that hard. Okay, so that's good. That's seated. So now we can bring our carburetor, and then we just, slide this whole thing very gently and delicately down into the carb, tighten it, and then hook up our fuel line, and then boom, we can put this thing, get it bolted on there. So that's pretty simple. And then we're not going to need our sliding choke anymore. So I'm also going to see, before I put the carb on, let's just see if maybe we can unbolt this and go ahead and get this choke out of here, since we're not going to be able to use it anymore. All right, now the gas that's in Cassidy's ATV here, it smells like straight paint thinner, so we don't want to put that into our brand new carburetor, so I'm just going to go ahead and take the fuel line. We're going to go ahead and stick it into this can here, so it should be pretty simple. Get that drained out. All right, so we got off the choke, and it was just a couple of screws that was holding this thing on. Very, very simple. And then you just got to remove the whole cable, which was just held on with a couple of zip ties. So real easy. I had Cameron go ahead and remove those, and got that part off. From here, we're ready to put on this carburetor. Before we do, we just had to put on the air filter. I figured it would be easier to do it, before it got onto the bike. Now, the air filter that we've got is too small, so I actually just kind of spit on it and got some lube on it, and I was able to shove it on there. But I did go ahead and order a couple new larger diameter air filters that properly fit the carburetor. That way I'll be able to take it off and on a lot easier, because there's no way I could get this thing back on once it's bolted onto the bike. So Cam's just putting that on. The only other thing is the little vent tube on the bottom that you see kind of hanging off here. So I went ahead and put that on, just reused the old one, just because the old one had a nice little kind of like spring portion. And now we're ready to put it on the bike. I definitely recommend putting the carburetor on from the driver's side, and probably putting on the throttle before you kind of get it, get some of the hoses and stuff bolted in there, because I already had the air filter on with that little tube that's attached to it, and I think I put the fuel line on before I did the throttle, and it was a big pain in the butt to get that. So the next little obstacle we have to overcome is, once I got this in here and got the throttle in, I realized that we still have some slack in the throttle cable. So I'm going to need to go up top and see if we can do some adjustment on the throttle cable with what we have, or if we need to get a new throttle cable, all that kind of stuff. So after messing with this thing for a few minutes, what I found out is this is our adjustment for a cable that would help take up some slack. So, originally this was all the way screwed in, and it was way too loose. I couldn't get any engagement. Now, even if I take this guy and I put him, 1 or 2 threads on here, I'm still not getting full engagement. Yeah, you can hear it. But it's not really actually opening till about 2/3 of the way, maybe halfway or something. So we're not getting the full engagement. We need more room to push this kind of backwards. Now, I think I figured out a way to fix the throttle without having to change the throttle cable or even having to go to the parts store. And the way I did it, let me show you. So this is my other ATV here without any modification. So we can see the cable just comes, right in here, and then it just goes right there, just like normal. Now with the other one, what I did was, because we needed some more slack, I just went and I pried this open and popped this thing out, and then I just took it and ran it underneath the bottom of this piece, and then back in, and then pop these guys back down. So it just took up that little bit extra slack, and I think we'll have to verify once it starts, but look at that. I mean, there's no, it's like perfectly, and I think it's all the way down. We'll have to find out once we start it, but well, we got to get the piece back on, but it seems like it works perfect. I also took out the little governor thing, because I noticed that was hitting. It wasn't an issue on the stock one, but on this one we needed to have the full range. So anyway, I think that's going to work. So I'm going to get that bolted back on and finish getting the bolts on the carburetor. This carb is all back together, and Looks like, actually, I probably could have still filed away a little bit more on that carburetor. I mean, it's touching, so I think we got it completely tight. So I think it's perfect, but we'll see. We'll see if it starts leaking fuel or something. But I think at this point we've got, you know, our throttle cable is looking good. Check this out. Look at how nice and tight. So that seems all good. All right, guys, so we just got, this is the first time we had it started up with the new NIBBI, I think it's what, a 22mm, you know, carburetor. So thing actually fired right up and came on the choke, no problem. And then now that it's warmed up, it seems to be running good. I did a couple laps, and now I'm gonna let Cammie take a quick lap. So go ahead and rip it. Oh, all right, try to start it again. Don't rip it right off the bat. Just give it a little bit of gas. Yep, now just give her a little gas and then go. We'll probably have to do some tuning on it, but yeah, there you go. Now you can rip into it. But be careful, it's really slippery. We had a little bit of snow last night, so it was fun out there. I was freaking drifting around here. But I don't think the throttle previously was ever really like at full throttle. Now it's like real tight now that I made those modifications to it, so it's pretty awesome.
That is so much faster.
It feels, you didn't even go very fast.
No, but like if you like press it just a little bit, it's already going like really fast.
Oh yeah, throttle response is like way better. Like put it in neutral real quick.
Neutral?
Yeah,
Sure.
hit it forward.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go. No, I just want to show them.
It vibrates you.
Yeah, well it's like, yeah, it's real. It's good. So we might have to play with the jetting and stuff, but yeah, so far, you know, when I did my few laps, it seems really awesome. So I'm pretty stoked about this little carburetor. What do you think? Feels pretty good, right?
Yes, I love it.
Ho, ho, ho.
A whip whipped. Oh my god. What was it? Oh, I feel so bad. Yeah. Wow,
That's going to be it for this video, guys. If you're thinking about putting on a high-performance carburetor onto your 125cc ATV or dirt bike, hopefully this video helps you out with the NIBBI that we installed. So check out some of the other videos on the page, guys. Lots of stuff with the Jeeps, with the Death Car build, with this Mustang that I'm building for the Hot Rod Power Tour. Check all those videos out. And if you like what you see, go ahead and make sure you subscribe. Send me some messages down below. All that good stuff. It really helps the channel. I certainly appreciate it. Take care, guys. See you on the next one.